Yeah. So this book, sort of, you were in quite a bit of personal anguish yourself when you created this book. So you have this deep attachment to it. I can completely understand that.
It's my first book, and I'm working on a new book on the history of plastic surgery.
And I'm fascinated with that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm looking at a guy named Harold Gillies who was rebuilding soldiers' faces during World War I. And if you've ever seen these guys' photos, I mean, we have no problems. You know, you think we have no problems in the 21st century when you look at these guys because they've been shot through the face and their jaws are missing. And Harold Gillies really designs or starts plastic surgery as we know it. And it was a time when losing a limb made you a hero, but losing your face made you a monster. So these guys are really isolated. And so what Gillies does is he gives them their identity back. So it starts on the battlefields of World War I, and it's going to kind of follow Gillies throughout. I like to do character-driven stories. Even though they're 100% true, I like to sort of follow medical history through the eyes of one particular person.
Wow. Yeah, the history of plastic surgery is fascinating to me, and I'm hooked on that show, Botched.
Oh, yeah. People always mention that.
That show is so crazy. This is me watching Botched. This is me all the time. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What are you doing, man? Stop doing that.
And what people put themselves through, right?
Oh.
I started following some plastic surgeons on Instagram just to kind of know what they're doing today and thinking about the ethics of how they target people on social media and how do we feel about that. And I'm telling you, I'm 37. I'm feeling bad about my body. I can't imagine if you're like 14 and awkward and you're Barb, and you have access to these accounts and the effect it has on young people on Instagram and everything.
Well, I had Jonathan Haidt on the podcast who wrote this book, The Coddling of the American Mind, and one of the big things that he discusses is people comparing themselves to others through social media and children, particularly girls.
Yeah.
There's higher instances of suicide, cutting, depression, much higher instances of depression.
I believe it. Yeah,
yeah I believe it too. It's crazy. And then you see someone like Kylie Jenner who transforms herself literally from an ugly duckling to a beautiful swan.
Yeah.
And it's all done through the knife, and it's crazy.
And that's the whole thing. Like that kind of beauty is unattainable, really, sort of naturally. This is Harold Gillies, one of his patients, and
wow, that's the end.
Yeah, and what he did was he invented this thing called the tubed pedicle, where he would take skin and he basically create a tube, and he could place it somewhere on the face where the defect was, and the blood supply would make it attach. And
that guy did an incredible job on that guy's
nose. That's probably 1917 right there.
That's like better than a lot of the people on Botched. It really is. I'm not joking. Particularly the final product.
And that's Gillies down there. That's another.
Man, no, he was incredible.
And really, when you think about what these guys went through, too.
Yeah.
So my book is starting with this guy named Percy Clair who's shot through both cheeks and his face is just blowing off. And to get off the battlefield was half the struggle because if your face is blown off, most of the time the stretcher bearers will just pass you up.
Oh, Jesus.
Because they think you're going to die. But it was a survivable wound. And so just getting off the battlefield, so you sit there for 12 hours. Maybe you die in the process.
And you have no food and you can't eat.
No food. And that was the other thing. So a lot of these guys died because well-intending nurses would lay them down. And if you don't have a jaw, your tongue slips back into your throat and you choke.
Yeah.
Or you suffocate. So just getting to Harold Gillies Hospital. So he starts this incredible facial and jaw unit in Britain during the war. Just to get there was a battle. And then you have to go through all these painful operations. And so I want to look at that. And then, of course, like, how does that become what we do today? But equally, I always tell people that Botched is one form of plastic surgery. But, of course, there's a lot of important surgeons doing reconstructive work.
Yes.
And now we have face transplants, which are incredible. I don't know, Jamie, if you can find someone who's had a face transplant. But
there's been quite a few.
There's I think the hardest part is finding the donor.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get people to donate their organs as it is, but think about a face is so personal.
Yeah.
And the last one, National Geographic did a spread on it. It was I think it was an 18-year-old girl who shot herself in the face. And in a moment of rage and anyway, she ended up having this face transplant about 3 years later. And the donor face, I think, was someone who was in their 30s. This person had died, I think, of an overdose, and then the family decided to give this face over. So it's actually incredible what we can do when you think about, from the battlefields of World War I to what Gillies doing to where we are today with facial reconstruction. And it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, I'm sure it is going to get better and better. And for people with disfiguring injuries and things, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
What freaks me out about Botched is the psychological aspect of people constantly tinkering with their looks. It's just
and now they have apps where you can upload your face and you can change things about your face, and it's just we're all becoming more and more insecure, I think, with social media. And it's part of this world where nothing is real. And
that's the other part of it, is a lot of these pictures aren't real.
No.
Like, people are doctoring their photos to make themselves look different than they actually do look. And then
I know.
people
Someone
see those,
walks into the studio and you're like, wait, that's not not what I thought that person was going to look like.
This woman who's friends with my wife, her neighbor is a model, and she takes all of her photos with no makeup on, and then they put the makeup on her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, that's how they do it. They do it all through Photoshop. So
Wait, Jamie, can you do that for can you edit this video?
He can do whatever. He can turn you into an avatar lady. He can do anything. But it's kind of crazy that they take photos with no makeup, and then they add the blush and the eyeshadow and all that.
That's wild. Yeah.